what that said to me was that practice is not wowing and they are not working on their micro interactions, because this is an adult who made a choice in their 60s to go in to orthodontics. Shocking that they don't know who their orthodontist name is.
Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your guest host, Jessie Megna, the marketing director at Jill Allen & Associates. Today's episode is all about understanding some of the lesser-known nuances around patient experiences in an orthodontic practice with yours truly, Jill Allen. From understanding what patients truly want to building trust and even handling difficult conversations, Jill will be sharing her insights on how to create an authentic and engaging experience for every patient. Let's dive in.
Hey docs, on this podcast, I talk about a lot of different ways you can set your practice apart. But here's one that might surprise you. Maybe you haven't thought about it before, but the equipment you use can make a big difference, not just for the patient experience, but for you and your team too. That's why I want to let you know about a new line of orthodontic equipment from ADEC. I visited their headquarters in Oregon earlier this year to take a sneak peek for myself, and I have to say, I was impressed. ADEC has manufactured award-winning dental equipment for 60 plus years, and they're bringing that same level of excellence to ortho. From comfortable, compact patient chairs to a versatile workstation and delivery to ergonomic dental stools, ADEC orthodontic equipment is designed for a smooth and easy workflow. Day after day, patient after patient, see the difference it can make for your practice. Click the link in our show notes to learn more about ADEC Orthodontic Solutions.
Jill, we get to do this again. We get to keep asking Jill, our very own expert on all things ortho, all of the best questions that everybody is dying to know. And so to get us warmed up and ready to learn, I want to ask you something to just get things going.
Sure.
And so I'm wanting to know if you can tell everybody what your biggest pet peeve is.
My biggest pet peeve is I'm only human. We joke about this a lot. We actually made a sticker about it for JANA. So if you've seen the alien sticker, because my response is, what else are you? Really? Come on. You can only be human. So anyways, that's my biggest pet peeve. But I think for me, my biggest pet peeve in the business, and if you want to like just raise my hackles or get me going, is tell me I can't do something. Like it's almost like game on. You just said I can't do it. I'll show you. I'll prove you wrong. So that to me is a pet peeve of mine, is challenge me with you can't do this. And
yeah, for everyone listening, I have witnessed this firsthand. I'm scared for my listeners. No, she really will. You don't want to put Jill in a corner. Nobody puts Jill in a corner. Today we're talking all about customer service, and we've had a lot of guests on the podcast that have talked about this, but we've never really gotten to hear your take on what the best customer service looks like in ortho. And from what I know of your perspective, it's a little bit different than what most people talk about. It's not necessarily the really obvious things in customer service that you tend to talk about and preach on. And so I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about what you think a patient wants out of the practice and what they want from their experience in an orthodontic practice.
Yeah, I think just naturally as business owners and as practice owners, we think that patients want to have the phone answered within the first ring. They want to have this really beautiful walkout folder of the past now, or this amazing slider that comes into their inbox that shows that the practice is really high tech. Or they want to be able to come and ask for the latest and greatest treatment that is all the rave on TikTok or whatever out there, and know that you're going to be able to provide that for them. And I think the reality of it is that's true. Honestly, patients expect that. They expect that you are going to be attentive to their phone calls and that you are going to be using the latest, greatest tech in your practices, and that you're going to be able to communicate with them in a way that they want to communicate. So to me, it's like the starting line. That's just the expectation. But what I really think when we think about this is I think about this a little bit deeper. And I think what patients nowadays, and again, I've been in this industry for a long time, I hate to say it, I'm pretty open with my age. I've been doing this for over 30 years now. And I
Yeah.
can tell you that what patient experience looked like in the early 90s is very different. And I think right now, the generations of patients that are coming into our practice are looking for an authentic experience. And like the coffee bar and the smells in the office, and we talk about all these different things, those build the experience. But I think that patients nowadays are really looking for something authentic to hold on to as they are deciding who is going to be their doctor or who in anything they're going to interact with on a business to consumer level.
And I know you see so many startups every year, and these
Mhm.
are really, I think, the kind of the precipice of where people are starting to build that authentic experience, right? Because they're starting from scratch. Do you have any good examples of what you've seen of somebody doing it a little different, who's really creating a good authentic experience for their patients that might be different from somebody like down the road or what we've seen done in the industry before?
Yeah, and I think I first want to say that there is no and we say this in JANA, but there is no cookie cutter approach to coming up with what is going to be your brand authenticity. Like you
Mhm.
as a doctor, whether you're just getting started or maybe you've taken over a practice or maybe you've even been doing it for a while, what your personal vision, mission, where you're going with your business. It all starts with you and what you want to convey to your patients. And so when I think about that, I think it first starts with just the doctor themselves. And can you convey a clear vision of the experience? And again, go beyond I want my front office to be nice when they answer the phones and this, that, and the other. But can you convey or do you know what that experience, that authentic experience is going to look like when they come into your practice? And so I think that can even start with something as simple as your brand. When you are out there and you're thinking about, okay, when somebody interacts with me, we think about all the different ways that patients can interact with us. When they interact with me on my website, how does it convey a feeling or does it convey a story about me and about how they can connect with my practice? And then when they get into my practice, is that story and that brand and that feeling, that authenticity being conveyed once they get into my practice? And once they get through the new patient experience, and once they get into the clinic, and once they make it to retention, is there this continuous component, or am I having breakdowns where I use this example of the catfish? We've talked about this before, but are they seeing one thing on the internet and then they get in and it's a totally different experience, or they get this really amazing new patient experience and then they get out onto the clinic floor and it's wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Just putting the braces on, that's it. You're in, you're out, you're gone type of a
Mhm.
thing. So I don't know if that helps bring that idea. I think the take home message is just that not every doctor has to think about this and then have their team on board with it. If you, as the doctor, cannot convey that
Authenticity.
if you, as the doctor, cannot convey authenticity in your
Mhm.
messaging to your team, and your team cannot mirror that out, that's our first breakdown right there.
Mhm.
And then we just have to look at it in all areas of our practice and then out into all messaging in our marketing avenues.
Mhm. I think you're so spot on there because I do think that part of where the starting point is in creating that authentic experience is making sure that it's mirrored everywhere. That any touch point that they have with your practice conveys that same authentic experience. I can remember when I was in the consulting role too, we had a lot of practices where this was starting to become a part of the dialogue in
Mhm.
the industry. What is we all know you're in the niche of orthodontics, but what's your niche as a business? And how are you going to make yourself stand out amongst the rest of the people? And I remember there was one practice that we had that was like really interested in doing something that was a little bit more boutique style.
Mhm.
And the doctor was really interested in art. And so her entire practice was filled with these beautiful
Yep.
paintings and these beautiful works of art. And she really created this great authentic experience for her patients around her art and the art that she did for the community, the art that she loved. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing to witness because it was something that her patients always remembered.
Yeah.
And what we
Yeah.
know about that authentic experience and what really brings people through is like when they are memorable.
Yeah.
Because it's one piece to be memorable and a great patient experience, because that's what we want. Like people love
Yep.
experiences that are
Yep.
memorable.
Exactly. Yep.
But how do you build trust within that experience?
Yeah, and that's again, I think it comes back to it starts with our doctors really conveying that vision to our team because
Mhm.
your team is the face and the voice of your practice. They're your hands. They are who a lot of times are that first line of interaction with our patients. And so when we're thinking about building trust with our patients, again, I think it's, like this fluidness of, do I see that in the interaction that I have with the front office team, maybe? Do I
Mhm.
see that as in the next part of my journey when I'm interacting with my treatment coordinator? Do I see that how it flows into the clinical setting? And maybe it's
Right.
something as simple as just being very open and honest with communication within the practice.
Mm.
And from the beginning, if a patient is calling in and they are wanting to schedule an appointment, and there's a very clear and precise message that comes out from the front desk about maybe why they are unable to schedule. There's empathy there, but there's also that honest communication. And then maybe in that still flows through into the TC room where they're getting clear communication about what their treatment plan is. And there's empathy involved. And we want to make this treatment plan work for you and working to be clear with the boundaries of the practice on financials, maybe, but yet still being honest with the patient about really truly wanting to help them be able to say yes to treatment. Or maybe when we're getting into the clinic and maybe treatment is going a little awry and where maybe we've encountered something that's going to cause us to go longer than we thought we were going to or whatnot. And because this is something that the patient is starting to know that, okay, they're always going to be upfront and honest with me, that the doctor, that the clinical assistant is sitting down and saying, hey, we've got this issue. Let's talk about it. Maybe it's rubber bands. Maybe it's this, it's that. I know who knows what it
Mhm.
is. But there again is just that continued message that's running through. And again, this is just one example of it, but it's everybody reacting in the same way, working the same way, giving the same message all the way through the practice versus I get one message and one reaction from one person. I see something totally different here, and it's a crapshoot in the back who I get to how I'm going to be treated and what type of an experience I'm going to have as I interact with the practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that what you're bringing up is so valuable too, because it is about that like continuity. We forget a lot of the times we understand that there needs to be continuity between us and the patient, but we forget about the continuity in the team
Mm.
and how we have to be working together as one unit in order to make sure that we are like
Yep.
seeing those things to fruition. And when it comes to empathy and honesty, and I've heard you talk a lot about being genuine in your
Mhm.
reactions
Yeah.
and the importance of that and building trust with patients. I think that sort of creates this like secret sauce, a secret recipe that really sets practices apart in that patient experience.
Yeah.
And
If
so,
I can just say this too, for anybody out there listening, I think now, and Jesse, you've talked a lot about this too, but our patients are super smart right now. Some of our patients have grown up with other people in their faces since they were children on a screen. And so they know authentic to non authentic. You can
mhm,
see it in body language, you can hear it in tone, and isn't just about placating the, oh, I love your purse. It looks so great.
yeah,
Jones, your hair is great. Oh my
mhm,
gosh, Mr. White, those shoes are amazing. Like
mhm,
they can pick up on that. It's not
right.
that. It's like that truly genuine, "Oh, hey, Mr. Jones, I'm so glad you're here. Hey, I remember last time you were talking about going on that vacation to Spain. How was that?" That's the authentic piece that, and I think just as consumers, if we think about it, we all pick up on that. If you think about where you sit. I could sit in a restaurant and watch my server. And one of the things that I know, do I have a really good server or one that's just moving through the moves, is are they genuinely interacting with me to interact with me? Or are they saying what they need to say to get my order taken and to move through the process of me having dinner and getting to deciding on their tip?
And that's such a good example of exactly what you were talking about too, where there's an expectation of your waiter that they bring in your food on time, that they refill your cup. But when we create that authentic experience, that really great thing that makes you want to go back to the restaurant, it's when the waiter or waitress goes above and beyond, right? They
Yeah.
create something memorable, like they interact with you in a way that is maybe a little unexpected. Maybe they're
Mhm.
joking with you, maybe they're making you smile. Like those are the things that I think that's such a great example that really push
Yeah.
somebody into that upper echelon of amazing patient experiences and customer service. These are such great points. So let's talk a little bit about, so a doctor has that vision for their practice, right? They want for example, the restaurant experience. They want every touch point that somebody has with their team to be like the waiter or waitress that goes above and beyond, that
Mhm.
adds that layer of humor, that has that really attention to detail and what that person needs and what they're looking to get from that employee. How do they communicate that? Where does that start?
Again, I think this is where we have to do the work as the business owners. It starts with you as the business owner. Can you communicate what is it that you want to convey to your patients? And
Mhm.
again, don't just fall back on I want to know that the phones are answered on the first ring and I want everyone to greet everybody with a smile. Yeah, everybody wants that. What are the little things that are important to you that you want to convey? And then can you convey that to your team? And that is not in a 2-minute meeting at the front desk. Hey, just want to make sure
Right.
everyone's smiling
Yes.
when they answer the phones. It's like, are you training on it? Are
Mhm.
you having team meetings talking about how do we move to the next level? Hey
Mhm.
guys, I think we do a great job at this. And I think we're right on point, but I have been reviewing I'm just using this as an example. I've spent the last month reviewing all of our new patient phone calls that come in. And I am noticing blah, 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 blah. And I want to elevate this experience. Let's brainstorm this. Let's talk about here's what I'm looking for. How can we as a team make this better? And then again, we're coming together as a team. We're having team meetings on it. We're training on it. And then we're implementing that. They're micro interactions that we are honing and crafting to make that patient experience memorable. Hey, I know that we do a great job at our follow up calls. I've been listening to our Jenny, you as the TC, and you do a great job. We're doing great, but I want to elevate that. I think I want to meet our patients with a video. I think I want to, at the end of every appointment, I want you to have taken some notes down and I want you to record a video, just you in your office, just saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, it was great having you in the office today. Whatever that is, it's personable, it's honest, but that could just be like that. We're
Mhm.
elevating it. But again, it has to start from you as the doctors doing that work to then help your team see the vision. I think one of the biggest things that becomes an issue is when a doctor lets the team or me as a business owner lets the team drive the vision
Mhm.
because their vision and my vision as a business owner could be completely different. And I think sometimes it's easier for doctors to be like, I'm not good at this, or I don't really want to have this conversation with my team. I hired them, I'm paying them good money. They can figure this out. But that's the blind leading the blind a little bit, right? And now you're setting your practice up on whoever that leader is within the team. But what happens when they leave and nobody else is on board with that? So it has to come from the
Mhm.
top down.
Mhm. Yeah. And I love that you hit on how important it is to communicate that outside of just a quick
Mhm.
2-minute, 2-second like interaction, right? Like it has to be a thought out strategy for each meeting that you're doing with your team, when you're doing it, and the information that you're conveying, because that's really how you move the needle on patient experiences. And so
Yeah.
you had talked about something else that I think is a really interesting concept, micro interactions. because we tend to forget how important the little things are and how all of these little things stack up to make a really big experience. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about micro interactions.
Sure. And again, it's these little I think about them like you just said, like these little touch points that can make all the difference. And let's just think outside of our industry for a second and think about, I don't know, Chick-fil-A for but as a great
Yeah.
example. When I go to Chick-fil-A, there's a reason. I'm not a big chicken lover by any means, but if I am going to eat chicken, I'm going to
Yeah.
choose Chick-fil-A. And there's multiple reasons why I choose to do it because the reality of it is they're a fast food place. Now there's 100 fast food places out there, a mile radius of my house, and probably everybody's got chicken on their menu, right? But if I
Hmm.
choose to do chicken, I'm going to drive the extra 2 miles to go get Chick-fil-A because of the micro interactions that I have from something as simple as when I pull up in the drive through and if the line's getting long, they've got somebody standing out there before I even get to the menu to say, "Hey, do you know what you want to order? Here's our menu." Right there.
Mhm.
That's just this little tiny interaction. And they're greeting me every time with a smile. To what's your name? And they want to interact with me by my name. To when I get to the window and they hand me my food and there's anything that they respond with is, it's my pleasure. Those are
Right. Yeah.
tiny little micro interactions. I know Chick-fil-A is an easy one to think about because it's an easy thing. But if you think about that, just, I always say, put yourself in the shoes of a consumer because we all are consumers first.
Yes, we
We have
are.
consumers that come into our practice, but we are all consumers. And if you think about what is it that keeps me going back, that makes me a zombie loyalist, let's just say, to this brand over that brand, it usually has to do with the little things that are unexpected,
Mhm.
but they may not have cost the company much of anything to do. It's a phrase, it's a little extra this, that, or the other. But it's that interaction that just solidifies I made a good choice in choosing and putting my trust in this company. And I think when we think about that in our ortho practices, there are so many ways that we can have these little tiny orchestrated
Mhm.
micro
Mhm.
interactions that don't necessarily know that they're orchestrated unless they're really thinking about it, that they're there. And there's just so many examples. Like I've got some docs that want to just anytime somebody finishes up with a procedure, they're always offered a towel with a lavender scent on it just to
Yeah.
wipe up afterwards. And again, like we,
Uh-huh.
we think, God, good grief, who's got time for that? The people who really care about those micro interactions,
Right.
or every single time that a patient comes in, they get to go to the popsicle refrigerator and pick out a popsicle for the road. That's fine. But for the practices that do, and they want those little tiny micro
Right.
interactions, or the ones that feel it's important that after every appointment, there is a follow up call from the doctor that just says, "Hey, I just want to check on you. I know today was a rough day. I just want to make sure you're good. Is there anything?" Again, a lot of docs will be like, "I don't want to open myself up to that conversation." But
Mhm.
the ones that do, there's a zombie loyalist following right there for
Mhm.
those ones. So
So true.
that's what I'm talking about. And I think, again, it's not just about an interaction where they friendly on the phone, but it's like, where do you have that opportunity to go above and beyond? Is it a
Mhm.
phrase? Is it a thank you card that just goes out every single time somebody sends somebody into your practice and you take the time as the doctor to write a handwritten note to them that just says, "Hey, thanks for sending Mrs. Jones and I'm looking forward to meeting with her
Yeah.
next week." It didn't say, "Hey, thanks for sending her in and she started and here's the gift." It's, "I am taking the time out just to thank you for thinking of me." It's up to me and my team to see where they go. But I am taking that time. Those little tiny things can mean the difference between long-term followers and repeat customers and repeat patients into our practice, or ones that are like, "Yeah, that was a great experience, but when somebody asks me on the soccer field who my orthodontist is, they go, 'Eh, Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
I had that experience. I was out on a boat with a bunch of friends a couple weeks ago, and one of my adult friends had braces on, and I said, "Oh, who's your orthodontist?" They couldn't tell me their orthodontist name. We all know running and growing an orthodontic practice isn't easy, and technology is supposed to help you, but oftentimes your practice management software doesn't. Some of them are even clunky and need lots of third-party add-ons. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to my startup and existing clients, because Greyfinch is different. Greyfinch is an all-in-one web-based platform that saves you time and boosts your client base, productivity, and bottom line, with no downloads or third-party software needed. It even has tools you can't find anywhere else, like televisits, two-way email and text messaging, a patient self-service hub, and much more. Want to see how it can grow your practice? Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen and see why countless leading practices have made the switch. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at getsmilesuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence. Now, me as a consultant, I'm like, what that said to me was that practice is not wowing and they are not working on their micro interactions. Because and this is an adult, I get it if it's a 13-year-old boy who's your
Right.
orthodontist, meh, I don't know.
I don't know.
But this is an adult who made a choice in their 60s to go in to orthodontics. Shocking that they don't know who their orthodontist name is.
Yeah. And it's that I want you to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's
Yeah.
the micro interactions that add up. And I think that your example of your friend is exactly that, right? Like, where did they miss the micro interactions that made them memorable to that person? Because that word of mouth business is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important in our communities as practitioners.
Yep.
And so I'm curious to know, because we've talked about how micro interactions add up to a really positive experience, right? But there's also times when micro interactions don't go the way that we want them to,
For
and they
sure.
add up to a really negative experience. Oftentimes, when it's a big, blatant mess up, that one's almost easier for us to get through with our patient. But when it's lots of small, little microaggressions, right? Negative micro interactions over
Yep.
time, that one's a little bit harder to undo when we've had negative patient experiences. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us about, how do we have those difficult conversations with the patients when we get to that point? Because everybody is going to have that type of interaction with a patient at some point in their practice.
Yeah. And I think Jesse, where it ultimately, a lot of times for us in our industry, the accumulation of these microaggressions tends to pop its head up in a negative review, right? It's for the most part, a review doesn't. Now, docs out there, I've talked to many of you where we've had those people that have come in and I swear they're just there to give us a bad review. So we're going to take those guys off of the table.
Get them out of here.
But if you've experienced a bad review, or you have interacted with a company who have had bad reviews, most of the time, and we'll talk more in a practitioner standing versus just a product on Amazon. Most of the time, those reviews are not coming from a one-time interaction. It's the accumulative effect of seeing, like that unmet expectation that I put my trust in this company, expecting them to be at this level. They have continued to let me down. from the interaction that I have every time I come into the office, and they are rude. They don't look up from the computer when I sign in. The back desk, when they come to get me, they're yelling my name down the hallway, and they will always get mad at me when I show up late, but it doesn't matter that they run on time. Like
Mhm.
all of those little aggressions tend to, like a bad pimple, they just show up, and they show up as a review more than likely.
Yeah.
It's very rare that a patient is actually going to talk to us face to face and
Yeah.
tell us about their problems, because it's so much less confrontational
Mhm.
to do it behind a screen. And when you say, okay, how do we deal with this? I'm going to talk about it from a review standpoint, because I just don't feel like many times we're actually going to get a face to face interaction initially from this. Is that we have to be able to first just sit under the weight of, okay, what just happened here? And not have this knee jerk reaction that, oh my gosh, I can't even believe they gave this review. This is ridiculous. Like, I think as doctors, as owners in a company, the weight, it always rolls uphill in this regard. Where did we miss the mark as a team? And here where I said we missed the mark as a team, because you are
Mhm.
part of that team. Are they doing too much? Have we not trained them to have a good interaction? Have we not trained enough to have them understand the importance of eye contact and body language when
Yeah.
they're interacting with our patients? Do we have a breakdown in our own systems where, we're on the patients? If you aren't here within 15 minutes, we're giving away your appointment, blah, blah, blah. And yet we are consistently running a half hour, 40 minutes late. There's a double standard going on. I think what we have to do is just really be thinking about that and training on that, and not be fearful of the pinch, because the pinch is going to come.
Mm.
And then when we do have to have those interactions, if it's something that came in online, my suggestion is always address it with your team, and then try and address it with the patient, and be very empathetic. A lot of times it's the patient just needs to vent, and they
Yeah.
need to vent to the right person. So get them on the phone with you, doctor, get them on the phone with your office manager. And the goal should be to let them talk, not for you to talk. They don't need to hear your
Yeah.
excuses. They don't need to
Mhm.
hear, they may not even need to know that you're going to fix it. They just need to have a platform to say what they need to say, and be able to hear that you are actually listening to them. If it's
Mhm.
an interaction that we have to have in person, I think we have to be and train on body mirroring. And what does it mean if they come at us angry and then we have an angry looking face? We're mirroring that energy,
Mhm.
versus can we let them communicate what they have without a reaction and try and diffuse that situation? Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but meeting bad energy with bad energy is never going to be a recipe for
It sure is not. No.
for that. A lot of times they're
Mhm.
defensive. What do you mean you don't like the way I answered your question? You shouldn't have come in late, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
Instead of, maybe what they don't know is, I always say most of the time it's situational, not personal.
Yes.
And
Yes.
maybe
Uh-huh.
there is something that happened with this mom. Now I know we all have those repeat offenders that has went on that they have not that they know nothing about. And so maybe just a little empathy and understanding can go a long ways. Does that help answer that question for you?
It so does. And I've heard you say this so many times: what you don't address, you condone.
Mhm.
And so whenever these sort of things come up, the bad review, the mom that needs to talk it out, you don't want to trade short-term comfort for long-term dysfunction,
Yeah.
right? I've heard you bring that
Yeah.
philosophy up, and making sure that you take the time to address whatever it is that's going on within your team before you take it to the patient, and stay solutions oriented and empathetic, and making sure that we can right the wrongs the best that we possibly can. So
Yeah.
I think you answered that question beautifully. I think there's a lot of really great takeaways for anybody who is maybe having some repeat offenders in their practice, right? Where maybe they're seeing some things pop up. It might be time to take some of your advice and lean into a little systems review and see what it is that's going on.
Yeah.
And
And if I can just say one more thing, it really is taking an evaluation to say, is it Because most of the time is it more training, fine tuning that we need to do with our team? Have we set expectations that we cannot meet? What is it, especially if you're seeing the same things popping up? If you were to go read a lot of reviews, doctor reviews out there, there tends to be usually within the offices, if they are not getting great reviews, it's usually the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
It's hard, but it's so easy to look at the pattern, to do the work, to sit under the weight of, okay, we've got a broken system. All right, I admit it comes from the top down. I, as the leader, am not doing a good job training my team on this. There is obviously a breakdown. We need to address it and make it better so that then we can change the course of what's going on here.
You
Yeah.
have to start top down, and you've got to work into where is it that we're missing the mark? Because
Mhm.
otherwise you'll just continue to be in the same spot. And nobody likes to be in that spot.
No.
Nobody wants to have angry patients. Nobody wants to have bad reviews, right?
Right.
We all want rainbows and butterflies and sunshine, dang it.
Exactly.
And it's achievable. It is, as long as we're willing to address it.
Mhm.
Everything that you said is just so important for any customer service oriented interaction. And so to start wrapping things up, I want to talk about the antithesis of like the microaggressions and maybe our negative reviews and our difficult conversations. And I want to talk about something that I know you and I try to do in our business all the time, which is infuse a layer of humor and fun into things. And so how do practices do this and maintain an authentic experience and still deliver really great customer experiences?
Yeah. And again, I just want to say to everybody, like, you have to be authentic to you first. And I work with a lot of doctors that are all different personality types and all different, come to the table with different strengths and different weaknesses. And I can tell you that I have yet to see where just one personality type makes a more successful practice than another. But I will tell you that certain personality types and the way we interact make it a little bit easier than others. And yes, sometimes your peers are going to have it a little bit easier just because they're just naturally maybe more of a people person. I get this all the time where I've got one doc that's super outgoing and man, they could go talk to a wall and have a great conversation for a half hour. And then I've got others who are like, Jill, like the thought of going out and even gifting or doing any type of marketing, like almost paralyzes me to the point of I'm a great clinician. I know I'm good. I know I can relate well with the patients, but the thought of that causes me extreme anxiety. Both are okay. It's just how you lean into your strengths and how you lean into your weaknesses. My first piece of advice would be don't get wrapped up in what your peers are doing. Even for me, it can be so easy to get out there and get in this negative headspace where you're like, oh my gosh, Gino's doing this and Michelle's doing this and Tracy's doing this and I need to be doing this. Or, oh my gosh, doctor's doing this. And you as a doctor are like, they're great as a clown. I need to go take some clowning classes and learn how to be a clown. Or they're so good at this. And so I need to go do that. I think what you have to do is ultimately do some inter-reflection and say, okay, what am I good at? Where are my strengths? And then how can I authentically bring that to whatever area that I am in and that I am interacting with in that patient experience? Because again, if you're a doctor that like for me, I'm not witty. I don't like to be caught off guard. I'm not great at coming up with quippy little things. I can hold my own conversation, but I'm not going to be right. I couldn't come up with trivia to save my life. I don't even know who my favorite singer is half the time because I can't remember their name. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't compare myself to them. I've got to be me.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I guess I'm talking around this subject, but what I want everybody to hear is you are uniquely special in what you can do and what you can bring. Every one of us that has a private practice out there, every one of us that has our unique business brings our own strengths to that business. And you just have to figure out what they are. Not everybody's going to be able to put their own photography or artwork up on the wall, or not everybody's going to be able to do this or that. But I believe that each one of you has something unique that you can bring, and you can craft your brand around that.
It's so good. And it's so true. And it's what I think everybody needs to hear, because we do tend to compare ourselves, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's such a natural part of the human experience to look at somebody else and be like, I want to do what they do, or I wish I was that way. And I think when we do that, we really rob ourselves of our potential to really show up in the best way that we can, and our own very unique. I think that was something everyone needed to hear, Del.
And if I can just finish up one more thought that keeps coming to my mind is, I think we have to get out of the mindset of scarcity and really lean into, there is an abundance. I know, like, I hear from people who are established practices, I can't believe there's more graduates coming out of this program than any other program. Here's the deal. There is an abundance of patients out there looking for a unique, tailored experience that fits their personality, and your practice can be it. Instead of going at it as there's this scarcity where we're all vying for the same 1,500 patients, and you have to have the same fees and do this and do that. So I just think, just try and open yourself up to, also on top of everything else, just that there is an abundance of people out there. If you're just true to yourself and true to what you do, you will have so much more joy in your life in general if you're just true to yourself.
Those are some good parting words from the wise Jill Allen.
Oh, well.
Be true to yourself. That's the best way to be. All right. So in our last question, if somebody wanted to learn more about this topic or find out more about our consulting services, where do they go?
Once again, I'm going to say best way is to just reach out to us on www.practiceresults.com. That's our website. I love to do Zoom meetings, so you can just pop right on, fill out a little form, and you'll get right onto my calendar. We will have a wonderful Zoom meeting. My favorite is when we have cameras on. I want to see your face. I want to see your smile. And I just want to be able to talk. It doesn't always mean that we need to do work together. Sometimes you just need to know somebody's out there listening. And I'm definitely that person, there to help as I can.
I can attest to that. You are all about goodwill. And anytime you can just sit down and have a good conversation with somebody, I know that you're always open to that.
Oh, for sure.
You heard her. Contact us. Have a conversation with the famous Jill. You won't regret it. All right. Speed round.
All right. I'm ready. I know.
All right. What's your go-to productivity tool?
For me, it is Notes. I'm a big Mac person, and I use that Notes app all the time. Like, I can be walking and all of a sudden I'm stepping off of the curb because I'm writing a note. That's my go-to for sure. That's where I start. And then into my calendar and block time scheduling. But Notes is my go-to for everything.
Notes. When you say stepping off of the curb, is that how you broke your foot?
Yeah, it is.
You were in Notes? Alan.
Some things are more important than walking.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Early bird or night owl, and which contributes more to your success?
Neither. If I could sleep in as long as I could, I would. And I really am at a point in my life where I want to be in bed, snuggled in. I've got a whole night routine. Once I get in bed, I again listen to books, and I have a whole routine that I do. I think what contributes to my success is being out on walks, because I'm the most creative when my mind is freed up and I'm doing something that allows creativity thinking. So there's my answer. I'm sticking to it.
That's that one. What was the first job you ever had?
It was Baskin Robbins. I was the 31 flavor gal. That was my very first job, and I loved it. Now, I will tell you the things that we did behind the scenes, nobody wants to know. They involve racing to get through all flavors as quickly as possible. But we had a lot of fun. And you can imagine teenagers working at an ice cream shop, a higher end ice cream shop. It was like the Starbucks of ice cream back in the 80s.
I've got to ask, what was your favorite flavor of ice cream then?
Ooh, my favorite used to be, it was a combination. It was their, oh my gosh, I think it was like a margarita flavored ice cream with chocolate hot fudge on top. That was like my, I know
That is the
it's,
most Jill thing I've ever
I loved it. It was,
Margaritas with chocolate. That was
it
great.
was something along those lines. It was some type of, I'm pretty sure it was a margarita or something along those lines, but it was my favorite. I loved it.
I love that.
Frando.
All right. Well, what would you say had the most tremendous impact on your professional life?
I think this goes back to one of the very first, I'll say, careers that I was in before I got into orthodontics. And I had a really amazing leadership boss that
Mhm.
just from a very early part of my life showed me what true leadership was. And I have mirrored that or tried to mirror that from that very early,
Mhm.
early experience in my life.
What's one business skill you think everyone should have?
I think communication is a good one. I think that it is important in business to be able to communicate, but not necessarily the way you may think and to communicate a point, but to be able to listen to the other person's point and
Mhm.
to take it in. And I think even I work on this all the time. Sometimes we listen to respond and being able to listen to hear the point and then
Yeah.
respond.
Oh, so good. All right. That is another episode of Hey Docs where we get to ask Jill all of these amazing questions. We get to pick her brain and just like bask in the Jill glow. I'm so happy we got to do another one of these. And I know
Yeah,
that our
thanks,
listeners
Jesse.
are too. Thanks for another great episode.
Yeah.